Scorpio, there's a reason this message has found you today. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Because the truth I'm about to share has been moving toward you for years quietly, like a shadow that follows you in the sunlight, waiting for the right moment to step into view. You've felt it, haven't you? That subtle pull in your chest, that whisper in the back of your mind that something in your world isn't what it seems. You can't quite name it, but it's there, a tension in the air, a change in the energy when certain people walk into the room. The truth they tried to hide from you is alive. It's breathing. It's been shaping your decisions, your relationships, your destiny without your consent. And here's what they never expected: the universe has grown impatient. Secrets don't stay buried forever, not with a Scorpio. You were born under the sign of the investigator, the soul who can walk through the darkest corridors of human nature and come back carrying the torch of truth. So if you're here right now, it's because that torch is about to be placed in your hands. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this. What you're about to discover may shake the foundations of your world, but it will also set you free. This isn't just a reading, it's a summons, a call from destiny itself saying, you've waited long enough. It's time to see what's been hidden. So take a breath, clear your mind, because in the next few moments we're going to step behind the curtain together. And when you see what's there, you will never look at certain people, certain choices, or even yourself the same way again. Part 1. Sacred Demolition, Scorpio. There are moments in life when the walls you've leaned on for years suddenly give way. Not because you ignored the warning signs, not because you failed, but because the universe has looked at you, at the sheer magnitude of who you're becoming, and decided you can't live in a cage this small anymore. At first, it doesn't feel like liberation. It feels like a storm breaking over your head on a day you thought would be sunny. It feels like waking up in the middle of the night to the sound of glass shattering, your old reality falling apart. You call it heartbreak. You call it betrayal, loss, or collapse. But underneath, there is another name: rebirth. Why it happens to Scorpios. Your ruling planet. Pluto doesn't play by the rules of comfort. It's the cosmic demolition crew, the force that tears down the life you've outgrown so you can build the one you were born to live. Pluto doesn't just rearrange the furniture. It burns the house down, hands you the blueprint, and says, now make it magnificent. And here's the thing, Scorpio, you were never meant for small lives or half-truths. You don't tolerate the superficial for long. When you feel the falseness in a relationship, a job, or even in the version of yourself you've been pretending to be, it starts to itch to ache until the universe intervenes. A story from real life. A few years ago in Chicago, a Scorpio woman named Evelyn had a life most people would envy. She worked at a prestigious law firm downtown, drove a silver BMW, and had been in a relationship for 7 years with a man her friends called perfect. Every Friday, she'd meet the same circle of friends for wine and tapas, swapping stories about promotions, vacations, and plans for the future. From the outside, it looked solid. Inside, it was hollow. Evelyn had started to notice small cracks. Her partner withdrawing, her friends gossiping when they thought she wasn't listening, the sinking feeling every Monday morning as she walked into her office. But she told herself it was just a rough patch. After all, wasn't this the life she'd worked for? Then came the month everything burned. She found proof of her partner's betrayal. Her 2 closest friends took his side, and 3 days later, she was laid off from her job without warning. She told me once, it felt like the floor dropped out from under me. I was free falling, and there was nothing to grab. But here's the thing about Scorpios, you may fall, but you fall through fire. And fire changes you. The hidden gift. For months, Evelyn thought she'd lost everything. But as the smoke cleared, she realized what she'd lost was the life she'd been pretending to love. The man she thought was her anchor was the weight holding her down. The friends she thought were family only felt safe when she stayed small. And the job that paid well had been slowly suffocating her creativity. The demolition wasn't cruelty. It was the universe answering the prayers she didn't have the courage to say out loud. Signs: you're in a sacred demolition right now. You might be in that fire yourself. Maybe the relationship that defined you is crumbling. Maybe your career, once a source of pride, now feels like a gilded cage. Maybe you wake up every morning with the heavy knowledge that you're living someone else's version of your life. If this resonates, hear me. It's not punishment, it's purification. What to do when it comes, when the walls fall, our first instinct is to scramble to rebuild exactly what we had before. But for you, Scorpio, that would be a tragedy, because what you had before was too small, too false, too fragile to carry the weight of who you truly are. Pluto's gift is brutal honesty. It will take from you anything built on lies, whether those lies were told by others or by yourself. So when the fire comes, let it burn what must burn. Mourn what's gone, yes, but don't chase the smoke. Life lesson. Part 1. Think of an old forest. For new trees to grow, sometimes a controlled burn is necessary to clear the underbrush, to make space for sunlight to reach the soil. Your life works the same way. When you feel the flames licking at the edges of your world, ask yourself, if this isn't the end, what is it the beginning of? Because when the ash settles, you'll see your life didn't fall apart. It fell into place. And when that happens, you won't just be standing in the ruins. You'll be standing at the foundation of your new empire. One you'll build stronger, freer, and truer than anything you've known before. Part 2. Spiritual connection. Scorpio. If part 1 was about the fire that clears the way, part 2 is about the voices that guide you through the smoke. When life strips away the familiar, when people leave doors closed and the ground feels unsteady, most signs look outward for guidance. But you're different. You've always had one foot in this world and one foot in a place most people can't name. The thin veil right now, that invisible wall between you and the unseen, is thinner than ever. You might feel it in the dead of night, a sudden shiver running up your spine without reason. Or in the quiet of early morning when you wake before the alarm and feel as if someone else is in the room with you. It's not fear you feel, it's recognition. For Scorpio's intuition isn't a passing thought, it's a living, breathing compass. And during moments of transformation, that compass starts pulling hard toward the truth. A story from real life. Last winter in Boston, a Scorpio man named Marcus was going through his own sacred demolition. His father had passed unexpectedly, his long-term relationship had ended, and his startup company was on the brink of collapse. He was exhausted physically, emotionally, spiritually. One night, unable to sleep, he went for a walk in the snow. Halfway down an empty street, he caught the scent of his father's aftershave, the one he'd worn every day for 20 years. Marcus froze. The street was empty. The scent was unmistakable. He whispered into the cold air, "Dad, if you can hear me, I need help." The next day, he opened his email to find an unexpected message from a former mentor he hadn't spoken to in years. That mentor offered him a job, one that would use all of Marcus's skills, pay more than he'd made at his startup, and allow him to rebuild from a place of stability. Marcus didn't doubt for a second who had sent that opportunity his way. How the other side speaks to you. Scorpio, the signs are never random. They may come as repeating numbers on license plates, clocks, or receipts. A feather on your doorstep, a song on the radio that plays at the exact moment you're thinking of someone you've lost, the sudden urge to take a different route home only to run into someone who changes everything. These are not coincidences. They are breadcrumbs laid out by those who have crossed over family, friends, soul connections, guiding you toward your next step. And here's the truth, they don't see you as broken or weak. They see you standing in the fire, shaping yourself into someone unshakable. They are not here to pull you out. They're here to walk beside you, whispering, "Keep going. You're almost there." Why you feel it stronger now. When Pluto moves through your life, it doesn't just change your outer world, it cracks open the inner one. Grief endings and transformation have a way of stripping away the noise. And in that silence, you can finally hear what's always been there, the voices of your spiritual counsel. In many Native American and Celtic traditions, both deeply respected in the US, there's a belief that our ancestors don't leave us when they die. They become part of our guidance team, able to see the big picture we can't. They step in during the moments that matter most, not to control our choices, but to illuminate the path. What to do with the signs? When you feel that shiver, smell that scent, or see that number again and again, don't brush it off. Pause. Acknowledge it. Whisper thank you. Because acknowledgement opens the channel wider. The more you recognize their presence, the more space you create for their guidance to reach you. In practical terms, keep a small journal by your bed. Write down every unusual sign, dream, or feeling. Over time, you'll see patterns that make it clear you are not imagining this. Life lesson, part 2. Love doesn't vanish when the body does. It changes form. And in that form, it becomes a shield, a compass, a constant reminder that you are never truly alone. So, the next time you feel a presence at your back, instead of turning away, lean in. Ask your question out loud, then stay open for the answer. It might not come in the way you expect, but it will come in the way you need. Scorpio, you have walked through fire, and now you are walking with ghosts who love you too much to let you fall. Trust them. They are leading you to the next chapter. And in that next chapter, someone you thought you'd left in the past will step forward in the flesh, not as a ghost, but as a test. And how you respond will determine how fully you step into your power. Part 3. The test of return, Scorpio. You've been walking through fire and you've been walking with spirits, but now the universe is about to place a living, breathing figure from your past right in front of you, not by accident, not by coincidence, but as a final exam. Why the past comes back. Now, you might think you've buried them. You've signed the death certificate of that connection. You've done the autopsy on the relationship, picked apart every memory, studied every wound until you understood its anatomy. You've closed the tomb, sealed it shut, and walked away. And yet, here they come. A text message at 11:11 p.m. A hey, how have you been sliding into your DMs after years of silence? Running into them in the frozen aisle at the grocery store like some twisted cosmic joke. The timing isn't random. They're returning now because you are no longer the person they left behind. And the universe wants you to see the proof. A story from real life. In Austin, Texas, a Scorpio man named Daniel had spent years healing from the betrayal of a former business partner who'd also been his closest friend. The fallout had been brutal lawsuits, public humiliation, and the loss of nearly everything Daniel had built. He rebuilt his life from scratch, found a new circle, and even started a successful nonprofit helping young entrepreneurs. He thought that chapter was sealed forever. Then one afternoon, while speaking at a conference, Daniel looked up mid-sentence, and there he was. The former partner sitting in the back row, eyes fixed on him. After the talk, the man approached. He apologized. He admitted his mistakes. He said he admired what Daniel had built and asked if they could talk about working together again. Daniel's heart raced, not with longing, but with the echo of old anger. And in that moment, he understood this wasn't an offer. This was the universe asking, have you truly learned the lesson, or will you step back into the fire you barely survived? Daniel smiled, thanked him for coming, and said, I wish you the best, from a distance. Then he walked away light-free and more certain of himself than ever before. The temptation. When someone from the past returns, the temptation isn't always love. Sometimes it's the desire to prove you've moved on by showing them kindness. Sometimes it's nostalgia, whispering, maybe it could be different this time. But Scorpio, you need to remember, the person they hurt is gone. The ashes of who you were have given birth to a sovereign being who does not need validation from the past. How to recognize the test. Here's how you know this is a final exam from the universe. 1. The timing feels surreal right when you've stepped into a stronger, freer version of yourself. 2. The emotions are familiar. You feel echoes of old wounds, but they don't cut as deep. 3. Your intuition speaks first before your heart or your logic. There's a gut knowing that says, be careful. The test is not about whether they've changed, it's about whether you have. What passing looks like. Passing doesn't always mean slamming the door in their face. It means making a choice from wholeness, not from fear or lack. It means not letting the old dynamic pull you back into a role you've outgrown. You can forgive without reopening the door. You can wish them well without inviting them back into your sacred space. You can honor the role they played in your growth and still keep your boundaries intact. Life Lesson, Part 3. Scorpio, your past does not get to decide your future unless you hand it the pen. When the past knocks, it's not always asking for entry, it's asking if you've truly stepped into your power. If this happens to you, remember, you owe no one a return. You owe everything to the person you've become. Close the chapter with grace, not with bitterness, not with vengeance, but with the calm, quiet certainty that your life is moving in a direction they can no longer follow. And when you do, you'll feel it, a surge of energy so pure, so electric, it will take your breath away. That's the universe saying you passed. Now, step into the kingdom you've been building. Because in the next phase of your journey, it's not about surviving the fire anymore. It's about ruling the empire that rises from its ashes. Part 4, Empire Building Scorpio. You've walked through the demolition. You've listened to the whispers from the other side. You've faced the ghosts of your past and stood your ground. Now the fire is out. The smoke has cleared. And you are standing in a place most people never reach in their entire lives, the clean slate. The realization. For so long, you've been searching for a fortress, a safe place to withstand the storms outside and the storms within. You thought safety was about walls, gates, and locked doors, but now you understand safety was never the goal. Sovereignty was. You weren't meant to find a fortress. You were meant to build an empire, and that empire will not be built on fear. It will not be built on the approval of others. It will be built on the foundation of your truth, poured, cured, and unshakable, from ashes to blueprints. The ashes beneath your feet aren't a symbol of what you lost. They're the soil for what you're about to grow. Every tear you've cried, every betrayal you've endured, every night you thought you wouldn't make it, those are now the building blocks of something unstoppable. Imagine this. A career that doesn't just pay the bills, but sets your soul on fire. Relationships where your depth isn't too much, but the very thing they cherish. A home that feels like a sacred temple, not a hiding place. This isn't a fantasy. It's the memory of your future. A story from real life. In Seattle, a Scorpio woman named Lila lost nearly everything during a divorce. Her house, half her savings, and a circle of friends she thought would be there forever. She moved into a small apartment with just a mattress, a second-hand couch, and a desk for her freelance graphic design work. It would have been easy to see herself as a victim. Instead, she treated that apartment like a palace. She painted the walls the deep blue she loved. She bought a thrift store table and covered it in candles and crystals. She set a strict rule: anyone who crossed her threshold had to bring respect, kindness, and good energy, or they didn't come in at all. Within 2 years, she'd tripled her income, launched her own design agency, and bought a home that reflected her soul's blueprint. Lila said, "I didn't just rebuild my life, I built a kingdom where I'm the only one who decides the laws." The Scorpio Empire mindset. Building your empire means choosing alignment over appearance, picking what feels right for your soul, not what looks good to outsiders. Guarding your gates. Not everyone gets access to you, and that's not cruelty, it's wisdom. Honoring your intensity, your depth is your creative power. the forge where your vision becomes reality. This is where American culture and Scorpio power intersect in the US. There's a deep respect for self-made stories, those who start with nothing, face the fire, and come out as leaders of their own destiny. Scorpio, you are the living embodiment of that story. Why? This is the most exciting part. Up until now, you've been surviving. Now you're designing. You're the architect, the ruler, and the guardian of what comes next. The Buddha taught that true refuge is found not in the world, but in returning to oneself. You've come home to yourself, Scorpio, and that's the capital city of your empire. Every decision you make now sends ripples through the rest of your life. The career you choose, the relationships you cultivate, the way you treat your body and mind, these are the laws of your kingdom. Life lesson. Part 4, never forget the empire you're building is not a place, it's a state of being. It's the unshakable knowledge that you belong to yourself. So dream audaciously, build boldly, and let every brick you lay be in service to the life you choose, not the life you were handed. Because the moment you claim your throne fully, you're not just surviving your story, you're writing it. And for a Scorpio, there's no greater power than that. Conclusion. The Phoenix's throne, Scorpio. Look at how far you've come. From the moment we began, you've walked through the sacred demolition, the burning away of everything false. You've opened yourself to the spiritual connection, hearing the guidance that most people ignore. You've faced the test of return, proving to yourself that the past has no hold over the sovereign you've become. And you've stepped into empire building, crafting a life not by accident but by design. You are no longer simply surviving, you are reigning. The last transformation. The truth they tried to hide from you was never just about a fact, an event, or a secret. The deeper truth is that you were always meant to find out who you are when everything else was stripped away. And now you know. The walls that once kept you safe have fallen, and in their place stands a kingdom that answers only to you. This is what they could never predict, that the Scorpio they tried to contain would emerge stronger, clearer, and more powerful than ever. You've learned that destruction is not the enemy. It's the sculptor that shapes you into your highest form. A vision of your future. Close your eyes for a moment and see it. A life where you never again apologize for your depth, where every person in your circle values your truth instead of fearing it, where every choice you make flows from the unshakable center of your being. That's not a dream, it is the empire you've just begun to build. From here on, every decision is a brick in your palace. Every boundary you set is a wall of protection. Every act of courage is a banner flying high over your city of truth. And you, Scorpio, you are the ruler who commands it all. Life lesson, final. The most sacred promise you can make to yourself is this: I will never again live smaller than the truth of who I am. Hold that promise like a crown on your head, because the moment you drop it, you invite the past to reclaim your throne. And the moment you keep it, you secure your reign for as long as you live. Separate call to action. Speak your power. Scorpio, if you've felt every beat of this journey, if you've seen yourself in the fire, the whispers, the test, and the throne, then don't just keep it inside. Type it in the comments right now. I am the Phoenix. I rule the empire of my truth. Say it so the universe hears you. Say it so another Scorpio scrolling in the dark tonight knows they are not alone. And if you want to walk this path with me, deeper into your power, your clarity, your destiny, subscribe to The Path to Buddha Wisdom now. We're not done. This is only the first chapter of your reign, because the universe is still moving pieces on the board in your favor. And the next message I bring you might be the one that changes everything again.